Okay, so little technology glitch. Moving on. So the next one is using male privilege. So this is, treating women like they're servants. The man making all of the major decisions in the relationship, acting like the master of the castle, being the one to define men and women's roles. Um, and, this can also get a little tricky. I think, culturally, if that is something that your culture believes or your religion believes and practices, then I think that's fine. But when it is used as an excuse to abuse somebody emotionally or intimidate them or threaten them, I think that's where, it's less about, honoring your culture or your religious values, and then it's more about abuse. And sometimes that can be really confusing. And you might need to, seek some help from a spiritual leader or religious leader if that is happening in your relationship. Has anyone experienced anything like that?
Yes, and I do come and I have dated people, from different cultures where gender roles are, there are the gender roles, and I'm very cognizant of that. But when somebody like uses it as an excuse to minimize you as a person and just talk down on you, because the gender roles are just to assign like duties to different genders. It's not about disrespecting somebody and saying like I'm superior to you because I'm a man, or like when you get when you get up from dinner table and you haven't even got the chance to pick up their plate yet, and they just shove it towards you and be like, "Hey, this is your job." That's disrespectful, and that has nothing to do with culture. That's just them asserting their power, and they're like in just trying to like boost their ego. And so, but yes, I have experienced that.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, I think that, even in cultures and religions where, um, where masculinity is viewed as maybe having more power or control or authority in the relationship, it's never meant to be about, you know, being disrespectful or degrading of women.
Absolutely.
Feel like
Um,
I've noticed for that one too in my past relationships. It's like a stark difference of in my healthy relationships I've had, we like talk about it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like in the abusive relationships, they just don't even care to ask like my thoughts on gender roles. Do you know what I mean? They don't even open the conversation to me. It's just I am dominant. Like it's not a two-way street for how we feel about those things.
yes, like you're not even viewed as a human being with your own thoughts and opinions and ideas, or can bring anything, to the relationship as far as your intelligence. It's just you're viewed more as an object, which
Right.
shouldn't be the intent.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I so agree with that, Chloe. It's like, because even when there are gender roles and with different cultures, even like when I go back overseas to like where I'm from, um, I mean, you can see relationships where there are clearly gender roles, but you still see where the husband is so attentive to the wife and so respectful. And then they have so much gratitude to the wife for holding down the house and, taking care of the kids when they're out working because they acknowledge the fact that, hey, my wife, she may be a housewife, but she's running all the errands, she's cooking, she's taking the kids to school, she makes the house immaculate. There's so much respect and gratitude. And
Mhm.
that just shows that just because, like, you know, they might believe in the gender role, but if somebody's abusive at the same time, they're using that as an excuse to minimize you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
Mm.
it's about consent, right? The woman is
Right.
choosing that
mhm,
lifestyle because that
absolutely.
lifestyle fulfills her and brings her
Yep.
happiness.
I was
It's not
thinking that it's
being
like a
forced
mutual
upon her.
agreement.
Right.
Yeah, yes, it's a
Absolutely.
mutual conversation for sure.
Yeah. And then the final one in the power and control wheel is using economic abuse. So preventing her from getting or keeping a job. That's a big one, not wanting your partner to have their own financial, freedom, making her ask for money, giving her an allowance, and that's different than creating a budget together that's agreed upon. Um, taking her money, not letting her know about or have access to any of the family income. So, there's no shared partnership. The only, financial, well, really, there is no financial freedom, for the woman. It's simply whatever, the man or her partner is allowing her to have, which keeps her really stuck in the relationship because there's no way to get out um, without having your own finances typically, or it's very, very difficult, I should say. Has anyone experienced anything like that?
Yeah, I guess in past relationships, like one in specific, he knew that I wasn't really able to support myself in terms of like, being able to pay the bills for housing and all that by myself. So, I mean, there were points where he'd like literally tell me like, there's nothing you can do. Like, you can't leave me because otherwise you're not going to be able to afford a house, stuff like that, just trying to keep me in the relationship.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, then you feel very, very trapped, in that relationship with not a lot of options, not a lot of outside support. Um, So the next handout we're going to discuss is understanding the cycle of violence. And we're just going to really briefly kind of discuss this one, so, since we have a few things we need to talk about today. So let's see here. Okay. How do we get this to go away? Hmm. Well, we might just talk about it because I don't know how to get it up the screen.
There you go.
Yeah, I know, but I can't move this black bar enough to see it. Let me see if I can change the layout. Okay, hold on. Hmm. Yeah, there's a like black bar up here at the top that is blocking me from seeing that. So actually, I think I'm just gonna read it if that's okay with you guys. All
Absolutely.
right, I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, so, and you guys have this so you can follow along with your own handout. But usually, it starts with a period of tension building. Um, so your abuser might criticize, start nitpicking things that you do, become really moody, disagreeable, withdraw affection. Um, they might destroy property or start threatening you, control access to resources. So they're really engaging in some of this abusive behavior, but it hasn't escalated to the point of, hitting you, the emotional, the sexual, the physical abuse isn't as heightened yet. It's kind of just building. And then it builds to a point where there is what's called an acute explosion. And that's that big moment where your partner might hit you, might really start to belittle you, might trap you somewhere, not let you leave, might, wield a weapon in front of you, might rape you or sexually abuse you. Following that big buildup, that acute explosion, there's going to be what's called the honeymoon or the makeup period. And this is kind of the period that keeps people in these relationships because that honeymoon period feels really, really good. I don't know if anyone's heard the term love bombing, but your abuser is going to apologize, maybe shower you with gifts, promises that it's never going to happen again. They may also blame you for the abuse, and you might start to internalize that and also start to blame yourself. There's going to be denial and minimization, and the survivor will agree to stay. They feel hopeful that this isn't going to happen again. They may stop any, consequences from happening, so stop legal proceedings, not agree to testify in a court case, those kind of things. And then there's going to be a period of calm where everything feels good, normal. Again, maybe gifts, promises could be a part of that. And the survivor is very hopeful that the abuse is over. And then that tension starts to build again. And, you start to feel like you're walking on eggshells. When that tension, reaches its boiling point, sometimes you might even provoke an argument yourself just to get it over with, because the stress of what is coming and how bad is it going to be this time can be really scary. And then in the middle is this denial. So minimizing the abuse, pretending it didn't happen after the acute explosion. And what that does is really perpetuates the cycle, because the message to the abuser is, I can do this again, and there won't be any consequences. Anyone have any questions or want to share an experience of this cycle and what it was like for them?
I do.
Yeah, go ahead, Jan.
Sorry, Chloe, were you going to say something?
No, you can go.
Yeah, and I think that when you're caught in this cycle, that what really does keep you in is the honeymoon phase. And because when me being a people pleaser and me always looking for the good in people, when I'm in that honeymoon phase, I'm reminded of all this person's good qualities. And then I'm blinded by everything they've done. And I'm somebody that truly like believes that everyone has such good qualities. And so the honeymoon phase is really something that keeps you stuck in this vicious cycle when you just are blinded
Mhm.
by all the negative things they've done.
Yeah, very well said and very true. I think, we all do try to see the best in people, and, things aren't always black and white. No person is all good or all bad. Um, so we ignore those red flags because, there's still some green flags in there.
Absolutely.
And there's still things that we're getting from that relationship that, that are fulfilling to us somehow. Um,
That was
so
perfectly said. The green flags.
yes, yes. So when you look at, that cycle of violence, which phase would you say was the hardest for you to recognize?
What was the hardest for me to like recognize and all of that? I apologize.
Yeah,
Or
so yeah, out of those like four phases, the tension building, the acute explosion, the honeymoon phase, and then the calm, were there any phases that were kind of hard for you to recognize when you were in them of what was happening?
definitely the honeymoon phase, but also I would say the calm phase too,
Mhm.
because nothing is popping off. I still kind of felt, even though I knew I wasn't in a great relationship, I still felt like somewhat safe, if that makes sense.
Yeah, very much. Are there any emotions that come up for anyone when they think about these phases?
I just kept thinking of the feelings of just confusion. Like, just like so much like I don't even know what's real anymore. And I related a lot to what Gian said about like just feeling so hopeful. But then at the same time, just like in those moments, almost like part of me almost knew better at the same time. But then you do all of these like mental gymnastics of like, you know what I mean? Just trying to make it make sense. And like Gian said, I feel like I'm the same way and just remembering the qualities of the person and the qualities of the relationship. And then it's just like, you kind of get confused about like, oh yeah, is this a good person? And I'm just like, again, the minimizing of how bad it was. It's like, and I'm like the problem here because I'm making these problems a big deal. Or am I in an abusive relationship and they are a shitty person? Like it's just the confusion and like you don't even start to
Absolutely.
know what reality is anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's very, very true.
Kind of going off of what Chloe was saying, I felt like, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but like I was having difficulty with like the calm before the storm, if that makes sense. Because it's always like, I'm like, oh, maybe things like are actually going to work out this time or something like that. Or, I'm also thinking sometimes like, am I the one who's actually blowing things out of proportion because I'm like almost expecting another problem to arise at some point.
Mhm.
And then it's like, am I self-sabotaging because I'm
Exactly.
just already thinking that this thing's going to happen? And it's like, well, that's no good for the relationship. And then lo and behold, it happens. But
Mhm.
in those moments, you're so hopeful. Like I said, like
Yeah.
that's the word that stood out to me. You just feel so hopeful and optimistic. And it's just, then you just feel so stupid. Like when it
Yeah.
happens, it's so exhausting.
Yeah, I think the self-blame, I'm hearing a lot of you say that you really struggled with the self-blame, and I think it's pretty common, especially in this like tension building phase, to feel like you can control it. You can stop it. You can stop the escalation, which you can't, but we tend to, blame ourselves or think, oh, if I would have done this different, he wouldn't have reacted that this way. Um, and the mental gymnastics, like you described, Chloe, I think is so true for everyone. Of trying to figure out, you know, how you can control your partner's behavior, which you can't, but um, and then what is your part in it? What is your role? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so now we're gonna look at the equality wheel next, which is what a healthy relationship looks like. And I want us, all to focus on when we look at this wheel, what qualities we do want in an ideal partner.
Okay.
So we're gonna go ahead and start with the negotiation and fairness. So seeking mutually satisfying resolutions to a conflict. We touched on this a little bit earlier, where both partners in the relationship get to express their thoughts, opinions, and ideas, and solve conflicts together as a team. Accepting change. Change is just a part of any relationship, and being willing to compromise. So, finding some mutual ground, mutual solution that both partners can live with. Then there's non-threatening behavior. So talking and acting so that both people in the relationship feel safe and comfortable to express themselves, and do things that they enjoy, right? To pursue their own goals and interests. And then respect, listening to your partner non-judgmentally, being emotionally affirming, so not minimizing their feelings or mocking their feelings, and valuing their opinions. And then trust and support, supporting their goals in life, respecting their right to their own feelings, friends, activities, honesty and accountability. And this is a really important one. Accepting responsibility for yourself when you make mistakes, and apologizing, and trying then to also change the behavior. Part of an apology is trying to change the behavior. Admitting when you're wrong, communicating open and truthfully, Responsible parenting, so sharing the responsibility of parenting, being a positive and nonviolent role model for the children. Shared responsibility, so whatever you agree upon as far as, household tasks, paying bills, all those things that have to be done, coming up with a plan for that both people agree upon, and making family decisions together. You might have to come back and revisit those things again and again and again, but sitting down and both sharing your thoughts and ideas. And then economic partnership. So even if one person is a stay-at-home parent, you should still be making financial decisions together, making sure that both partners benefit from the financial arrangements that you guys make. So when you look at this equality wheel, why don't you take a look at it and pick out 2 qualities that you really want to have in your next relationship. And anyone who wants to go first, just jump right in.
I can go first. My first one that stood out to me, I've kind of learned through my own therapy and stuff outside of this group, even that honesty is a really like a core value of mine. So I'd say that's the first one that stood out to me and just is really important. And I think that also goes hand in hand with just like knowing my reality. You know what I mean? Like just having someone that is truthful with me and honest with me, and that so I can have the clarity in my mind because I really do know what's going on and I know how they're feeling. And yeah, so that one stood out to me. And then also, I think negotiation and fairness, just being able to like talk and feel safe to talk and feel safe to just like try to problem solve together and compromise and know that both of our voices are being heard is also really important to me.
Good, thank you, Chloe. Anyone else?
I'd say, at least like in terms of my values, I'd say I value like the trust and support area the most because I'm like, if I can't really trust you, then why am I dating you?
Mhm.
Um, and then similar to Chloe, I think my second one would be no negotiation and fairness, just to make sure that, it's not completely one-sided and we're both getting our fair share of what we want.
Thanks, Christina.
For me, it would be trust and support, and then the respect. I just, because I'm not used to feeling supported, and always kind of feeling alone, in my journeys, it's so nice to have somebody that can actually support me and encourage me to reach my goals instead of trying to like tear me down. So that's very important for me. And just respect, just listening to me non-judgmentally, instead of mocking me and, making fun of me. It would be so nice to have somebody that could be understanding and just make me feel, you know, respected and just worthy. Because I think like a lot of us, we almost sometimes in the process of dating, like, people who are abusive, like we lose our self-respect. And so, um, that, that's really key to me. I would actually say respect is almost number one and then trust and support.
Very well said. And you guys are all worthy of, those qualities in a relationship. When you think about respect, you know, what does that look like to you? Can you guys give me an example of a situation where you would feel respected?
I think maybe like I said about like the compromising thing, just being able to share my thoughts and feelings and knowing that they're hearing me and like validating those feelings. Like that makes me feel respected. Like they care how I feel and they respect how I feel and they're willing to like honor that and work with me.
For me, it's like when I come up you know, I'm somebody that's very like creative and you know, when I in my personal and professional life, and when I said I wanted to go back to school, I was mocked and made fun of. They're like, "You're so old now." Like, you know, what I would have liked to have heard was, "Oh my gosh, yes." You know, you know, I would have loved to have had somebody validate me and be like, absolutely, you know, I'm here to support you to go back to school. And um, I wish you would have done this sooner instead of mocked me and said that I'm old.
Well, I'm glad you did follow that dream and went back to school. So
Thank you.
it's amazing.
I'm kind of in a similar boat to Gian. I've like switched like what career I want to do like 2 or 3 times now. And in my past relationship, it's like, I don't know, it's almost like they're like, oh, you've already switched your
Mhm.
career this many times. Like, are you really sure that you want to do this? Like kind of like almost doubting if I want to do that career path. And I'm like, I don't really need your doubt, as to whether
Yeah,
I want to do this or not. I need your like affirmation that I can do it essentially.
Hmm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, our path in life is not always linear, right? Especially when it comes to career and education and sometimes we have to try things and they don't work and we have to switch direction. And I think it is important to have a partner who's, willing to take that windy road with you, I guess. Um, so we're going to close our meeting today by looking at affirmations. I think the affirmations are really powerful. You know, when we get out of a relationship that's abusive, often, our feelings of self-worth are very diminished and, we need to build those back up. We need to reclaim our power and our strength and remember how resilient we are because we survived, this relationship and we get to share our experience and someday we might share that experience with somebody who really needs, to hear our story of how we were able to leave and change and grow and heal. Um, so, we have to forgive ourselves. We have to love ourselves again. We have to believe in our own abilities and our own intelligence and insight, intuition. So I want you guys to take a look at those affirmations I provided, and I want you to either choose one or come up with one on your own that really speaks to you. And then I want you, after our group today, to write that down and put it somewhere where you can see it for the week. Maybe put a post-it note on a mirror at home, or in your phone, somewhere where you're going to see it this week and remember that.
I don't I don't think I got the list that Chloe and Christina got.
Oh, well, let me
It
see if
might be my fault. Maybe I did get it and I
I'll try to see
don't
if
know
I
what I
can
did with it.
pull it up again. Let's see.
You included
Oh,
Gian. Um,
can you guys see that?
Once,
oh, yep, that works
oh,
too.
I see it. I see it now.
Okay. I'll kind of like it's 2 pages, so I'll just leave it on here for a minute and then scroll a little so you can read the other ones too.
You wanted us to pick one or two?
Pick one or two, or make up, make up one you're on your own, either way. Does anyone have one yet?
I do. I forgive myself for not feeling worthy or better. That's very important. And then I give myself permission to accept that I am worthy of protection.
Like that.
I think those are very true. They speak very true to me.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the one I want to pick is I forgive myself for believing I'll never be good enough.
Like that.
I think I'm resonating most with, well, I might change it to instead of I give my children permission, I might say I give myself permission to feel secure and have healthy relationships full of love and safety.
Absolutely. That's very
Well, and my
empowering.
children, of course, but
For you as well, right? I like that.
yes, I should just say that.
Yeah.
I forgot I had hypothetical children. This that makes me sound horrible.
Ah.
No.
Uh,
All right. Well, does anyone have any questions before we end group today?
No, but Miss Heidi, um, I just really enjoyed this group. It was like one of my favorite groups that I've had out of all my groups because you make me feel so confident and empowered. Every time I leave your group, I just feel like I can do this.
Well, thank you.
So
Thank you.
thank
and
you.
safe and
And
safe
you
and
can
safe.
you can do it. You can.
Absolutely.
Mhm. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming today, and we will see you guys next week.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.